will be starting momentarily. Thanks everyone for being here. Elemental, Silver Fox. Got 4 minutes. Get your coffee, get your water, and get your notepads. Hello and welcome, Bubble Tea. We'll be starting in 2 minutes. Enjoy cooking dinner. Makes me hungry. Oh. Food. All right. Welcome once again, everybody, to TubeBuddy Education. Class begins now. Hello, all. Welcome to class. Today is going to be all about live streaming on YouTube, especially if you're trying to start out. This is a basics crash course into what that looks like if you are streaming or trying to on your PC using OBS, which is Open Broadcaster Software. This is an open source software that allows you to connect to YouTube. There are a few other ones that you can use, like Streamlabs, that makes it a little easier, but I like to always use the less intensive programs, the ones that will take the least amount of resources on your computer, because when you're streaming, especially when you're streaming games, you need as much juice as you can get, especially, you know, depending on your hardware. But anything that you can do on your own that is absolutely free is incredibly valuable, and I want to give that to you. I've been streaming more than I have been doing anything else on different platforms. Music has always been my main go-to, hence the music you're listening to now. If you want it, it's free for creators to use. And at the same time, I started streaming games because that's the core passion of what I want to make and like to make, is games. But lack of time, you know, bandwidth. And so what I opted for is streaming. And I started off on Twitch. I've tried a few other platforms and figured out a lot when it came to getting good quality video. More than anything else. There's a lot to talk about when it comes to audio. There's a lot to talk about when it comes to lighting. Don't judge. And that can all be its own courses. And let me know if you want a deep dive on audio or video, cameras, especially when it comes to audio. I can definitely help with getting something that sounds decent. And I'll show you a little bit of what that looks like on this in this tutorial. Let me lower this music just a tee bit. So let's just jump in. As always, really quick, thank you everyone for being here. Carly, thank you for being here. Social Ninja, Stanley, I love it. All right, so let's switch my screen over really quick and brighten my face up in uncontrollable manners. First, there's OBS, but we'll get to that. Let's actually, let me remove that out of the equation really quick, just so we can figure some other stuff out. Okay. Woo! Let's this whole thing again. Right. All right. So OBS, we talked a little bit about OBS already. And one last time to preface, this is what we're going to learn about today, is OBS and how to integrate TubeBuddy with live streaming, or how to use TubeBuddy, because there's not a lot when it comes to live stream tools. But there are ways of using it, and ways that will especially help you with figuring out how you're doing. And this is going to be, I'm going to be very transparent with the data, and we'll get to that. So, but first, OBS. OBS is that open source tool you want to use. You can use these other tools, but for this video, it's going to be OBS. I want you to use free tools. It just will take some practice, and it will take some, you know, understanding about how some of the things work. And today I want to help help you understand those as easily as possible. So first up, when it comes to OBS, let me bring up OBS and give you Inception. And actually, let me not lock this preview. Let me disable that so that you can see a bit about what's, going on here. So when you have OBS, there is a lot to figure out. You have scenes, you have sources, you have how to get started, and all sorts of things. You might see something here on the right, which is vertical. Now, this is a nice little trick that I'm going to show you later, but what you can do is record this, stream it, everything's hunky-dory, 1080p or 16:9 ratio, it looks great, but you can also automatically record shorts versions at the same time so that you don't have to re-edit, you don't have to do anything besides just pull it, just grab it from your PC and upload. It is a time saver. Oh my goodness, is it a time saver? So, but for the sake of this, again, we're going to be talking about basics. So the first thing to know is resolution, is what you are going to be kind of building out your stream and what you are going to send over to YouTube. So settings. This is the very first area that you are going to be setting up. And I recommend in your stream settings, just connect your YouTube channel and it'll do all the rest for you. And then there's an ignore streaming service setting recommendations. This is really important if you're gaming, because when you're gaming, there's a lot of action. And I'll get into this a bit more, but you'd want to check that so that you can add a bit more oomph to your videos, like bitrate, which we'll also talk about. But this will, if you're not streaming gaming, you can leave that unchecked. YouTube will handle it for you and you'll be good to go. But in order to understand bitrate, we need to talk about it a little bit more. So we'll come back to that. So now, this is where we're going to spend most of the time talking about in this live stream, because this is where it gets really confusing. So when it comes to gaming, there is a lot going on. You have your graphics card that is working really hard to give you the graphics that you want to see, but your computer and your graphics card are going to be working also to put all of that video in a nice little envelope that you're going to send over to the lands of YouTube to be able to show your viewers, like now. And there is a tip here when it comes to streaming and your resolution. Actually, let's go to the video tab. There is base canvas resolution and there's output scaled resolution. So this is the easy way. Use what you're using on your PC. The little bit more advanced, but we should talk about this, is let's say you don't have a powerful machine. Let's say you don't, you have your game going on and and even if you're streaming or you have low internet connection, 1080p might be just a wee bit too much. So what is really helpful is to downscale your resolution. You're sending, so back to kind of this, I want to stick to this analogy here, if I'm using that word right. We're going to stuff our live stream, our video, our audio, all that in a nice little envelope, and we're going to send it off to YouTube. Now that envelope might be too big if you don't have a machine that is producing that for you, or a good machine that's able to do that, or your internet connection is a bit slow. So this is going to be important. If I go back over to our whiteboard really quick, there are a couple things that matter. PC specs and internet connection. So without having a good computer, or if anything, here's what I recommend: a graphics card. Let's call this a GPU instead. If you don't have a dedicated GPU, if you don't have your own graphics card, I don't know why. If you don't, if you're gaming, you'll need it. You will absolutely need it. But if you don't, and you're not doing gaming, then make sure you have a decent processor. And these are vague words: decent, good. What does that really mean? When it comes to gaming, as long as you have a GPU, you can get by, and we'll talk about it. But I'd recommend getting something in the later ends, if anything, something like RTX to something series at the bare minimum. If you want to do like 720, possibly 1080p, but we'll get to that later. Your processor, if you're thinking about getting one, and you probably want to consider this, especially if you're gaming, any kind of Ryzen 3 and up series. These are cheap options that will get you going if you don't already have one. So this will enable you to get the resolution you want, get that envelope built out so that you can send it out to YouTube. And then, oops, let me move this stuff out of the way. Oops, I kind of messed this up, didn't I? Let me grab all that. All right. Now, knowing that we're talking about PC, you're have an 8-year-old PC and so can't stream as my graphics card can't cope. What kind of graphics card do you have? I'm curious. So you'll need something to be able to put all of that together. If you're gaming, if you're not gaming, you don't need much, but the rest of the settings that we'll talk about later will be important. Internet connection. First things first, go to something like speedtest.net and find out what your upload speed is. That is going to help us determine something really important later. Actually, I made a mistake here. Just with that actually needed to stay here. Woo. Okay. Whoops. All right. So that upload speed is going to determine later what we're going to do. And I'll tell you why later. But if you don't have enough upload speed, in other words, by the time that envelope gets over to YouTube, it might not have been able, YouTube might not have been able to really ingest it, really eat most of that envelope up and give it to your viewers. It might just cut off halfway through, and then everyone is going to see this very pixelated variation of something. So, for example, I was playing the latest game, which is, oops, we're not ready to go there yet, which is Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the game. And as you can see right now, I don't know if you can really make out what's going on. The pixelation is rough. Oops, let me move some other stuff out of the way. So that pixelation is rough. So this is an example of what that looks like. It's just blocky. And to your viewers, that's not going to be good. If they can't see what's going on, their eyes are going to hurt, and they can't get immersed. You want your viewers to get immersed in what you're doing. You want to be able to follow along a bit. So when you don't have, let me move this again. Actually, we'll keep that there. But so when you don't have that speed or GPU, all that combination, that's what's going to happen. And I bet that's what some of you have dealt with. So here's the real value of this particular live stream. And for those that are here, is understanding the settings, which is the most confusing aspect of this entire thing. I've spent so much time trying to understand and test different things out. So I'm gonna make this really simple for everybody. If you're gaming, again, this is focused on gaming. I'll throw in some bits and pieces without it, but you know, gaming will be the thing. So let's say you have everything going on and now you downloaded your OBS, your profile. Got it ready to go. Now we'll come back here. And going over to the settings one more time is our output tab and our output section and streaming tab. There is something called, what I want you to focus on the most is video encoder, because this is where it gets nasty. Choosing your encoder is going to be really, really important. It determines what type of program on your computer is going to build that envelope that we're talking about over to YouTube. It's that neat little package. And there are different versions. And the two I'm going to talk about right now, for basics that you need to know, is H.264 and HEVC. Long time ago, faraway land, before anything even ever existed, there's something called X264, which is on your computer. If you're trying to stream gaming and use X264, then you're going to be having a bad time, because you're using all of your computer's power on everything. Imagine you trying to carry a 1 gallon milk or 1 gallon worth of milk in a 16-ounce pint. It's overflowing. You wouldn't be able to carry that over. You wouldn't be able to carry 1 gallon of milk over to somebody with just a pint glass. In the same way, your computer would just be, there'd be milk all over the floor. So then the beauty of having a graphics card is that we are offloading that milk from your computer, your processor, because you got gaming, if you're trying to stream too, you got audio, you got all sorts of things going. H.264 is what comes with most GPUs, graphics cards. And that gives you a giant bucket where you're leaving your computer to help you with your game, with whatever you're doing. But when it comes to building out that envelope that we're trying to send to YouTube, this version, we're putting all of that power, that processing power to build out that envelope in a big bucket. So you can put that gallon in there if you want. You can put multiple gallons if you need to. And that offloads it, so that now you have your pint glass that still has plenty of room for your computer. And then you have a bucket over there for everything else, like your stream. Easy mode, use anything that you can find that is H.264. Too long didn't listen? H.264. Use that one. But let's say you have a higher end graphics card. There is a newer type that YouTube streaming. So one quick preface, I should have said this earlier. This is streaming to YouTube. It's not streaming to Twitch. There are different rules about that. But on YouTube, HEVC is a new encoder, or not a new, it's kind of new. There is a newer already, but we'll talk about that in an advanced class if you want to learn more about that. But HEVC is faster than this H.264. If you have a higher end graphics card, pick HEVC. YouTube accepts this now. It is much less intensive on your graphics card. It won't work as hard. It produces a much smaller file, so smaller envelope to send over to YouTube, which means that you might not need a very powerful internet speed. But if you're streaming, I'd recommend that you get decent uploading or decent internet to be able to upload without issues. Let me move this down. Nice. Hey, codeations. So now that we know that a bit, again, this is the basics. So if you don't have, everything doesn't have to be fully understood, but what I want this to be is for you to have an easier time getting started. Choose H.264 if you just don't know or not sure. Just go with that one for now. This is good enough and will get you going. So now the even more complicated part that I'm going to make super easy. So on YouTube, actually let's go to that right now. YouTube encoder settings. All you got to do is search that and look up that Google support. Actually, this isn't the one. Supported. One more. Live encoder settings. If you don't really know what to do, what to set up, find this support article. I'll throw it into the description of the video, or you know what? If it happens to show up in chat, maybe I'll throw it in chat. No, it doesn't. Look it up. You'll find it here. Later, I'll throw it into the description. And at the bottom, you'll find exactly what settings you need. But let's talk about bitrate, because that is the next topic. There's a lot of other options. I won't get into all of them, but I will give you a basics. First and foremost, rate control, just use CBR. This essentially just helps you get everything put together quickly. And when it comes to moving, especially when it comes to motion graphics or high motion, it allows it to fluctuate with something that works as you're moving. It slows down when you're absolutely still and ramps up when you start moving around. This is good. That way you have an even level stream. But bitrate. All right. Bitrate is, here's the envelope example. We talked about how big it is and, you know, the size that we can send over to live streaming. Bitrate is the amount that we're stuffing in that envelope. So if you try to throw in a magazine in an envelope, what's going to happen to the envelope? It's going to blow up. You probably won't even be able to send it out, period. So if you have too much that you're stuffing in your envelope, it's not going to work. And this is bitrate. It's collecting all the bits and pieces of your audio, your video, and you're telling this, you're setting up essentially how much you're going to pour into that. And how much you can actually put into your envelope is determined by your upload speed. So when you do a speed test and you see, let's say 10 megabytes upload is your upload speed, then you can do 10 megabytes, which is 10,000 here, which is great. But make sure to look at YouTube settings, because it tells you here what that maximum is. If you are streaming gaming at 1080p, 60 frames per second, it's right here. Use 10 maximum or 4 minimum. Depending on how intensive your game is, how much action, like Apex, Texas Chainsaw, Dead by Daylight, 10 might be better. Maybe if you're closer to Minecraft, you can get closer to 4, but you'll have to tinker with anywhere in between. try it out, see what works, see what doesn't, add more if it looks too pixelated. But typically, if you're something like Minecraft, I would recommend 6 to 8, but only if your upload speed is also 6 to 8 megabytes. Because if your upload speed is not, in this case, like 10 megabytes, 10,000 kilobytes per second, which is 10 megabytes, then it won't even make it out. It's trying to stuff a magazine in an envelope. But if you do, then, and you try to put a magazine in your envelope, that means that your envelope just stretches out and it fits and it's nice, it won't rip, and off it goes. But YouTube says 10. If you try to do 20,000, YouTube allows it. This is where back in the stream settings, you can click ignore and it says maximum video bitrate 51,000 or 51 megabytes per second. But do you really need that? If you're streaming 1080p, you don't. You're sending way too much. You're sending a trampoline over to YouTube. And all this extra stuff is just going to go to waste. But the real problem here is if your viewers are trying to watch your game, your stream, and their internet isn't so great, maybe they're watching from a phone at a coffee shop, a bad phone, or with poor internet connection, you're sending them, it's like sending them a 4K video for a 1080p, and when they try to look at your live stream, it won't load. They'll have connection issues. They won't be able to download it, because if you are sending a 20 megabyte video upload, you're expecting your viewers to be able to download that speed as well. So if you're ever streaming and your viewers are saying, hey, what's happening? It keeps losing connection. It's freezing all the time. It's skipping. This is why. We're throwing in so many bit rates that we're stuffing 10, so for example here, 20,000 kilobytes per second. We're stuffing 20,000 magazines in an envelope for one magazine that you're trying to show your viewers. Why? There's no need. So hence why we're bringing it down to 10 megabytes. It's pretty good. But if your viewers have poor and you can bring it down a bit, bring it down to like 8,000. Be mindful of your viewers, your audience, who it's for. This is key and important. So this also determines that pixelation. So going back to this example here, this was a low bit rate video and it's not collecting all those bits and pieces. It wasn't able to. I only sent it so little that this is what it received. And to your viewers, it's not so good. So you want to make sure your bit rate is high enough so that it looks decent, like this. This is where I increased the bit rate to 10,000. I use HEVC, streamed in 1080 and 60 frames per second. We'll talk about the rest in a little bit. And as you can see, even in darkness, it's quite a lot of bit better to look at. You know, knowing what's going on, it's easier to figure out, you know, what's happening here. And you even get some crystal clear visuals. You can read it. Whereas before, you just won't be able to very well at all. So coming back to this, check the Google document, the support article, look at what you're planning on streaming, downscale to 7, even if your computer's 1080p and all that, select 720 in your settings so that it has an easier time putting all that together and your computer can function normally. Excuse me. Okay. Going back to OBS. That's bitrate. If you don't know, easy, too long didn't listen, look at YouTube's support article, choose anywhere in between the numbers that it gives you there, throw that here. It will also give you information about all the rest. So if I went back to our whiteboard, and actually your bitrate. Use Google's support article to figure that out. But do not go over really 20K. Ever. Ever. Even if you can do 15,000 if you want to, but again, you are expecting your viewers to have high internet connection. Safe zone, under 10K. There's some pretty easy stuff. Presets. This is the last one to really go over, aside from audio, which will be super fast, super easy. Because once we have all our settings on video done, audio is pretty quick. But presets is now we're looking at, we're choosing our, earlier we talked about the encoder, the video encoder, and we decided that GPU is where we're gonna use this bucket instead of our pint glass. We're gonna use this bucket to put all our stuff, all the work. And it's gonna do all the work. And preset determines how fast we're pouring milk in there, or how fast we are putting magazines in this envelope that we're gonna send in. And depending on how many pages of the magazine we're gonna put in, determines pretty much this preset. So if you want to give somebody, you want to give your viewers the best quality, you want them to have all the pages of your magazine, then you want to make sure to always select best quality. But that also depends on how good your graphics card is. If you're unsure, too long didn't listen, stick with medium, right average, right in the middle. If you notice that you're still you'll have an error message at the bottom of your OBS saying couldn't encode, couldn't put the magazine in. There is just too much. Then go with a lower quality, go one by one until you find the best variation. Any of these could be good depending on what you have. And it also depends on what game you're streaming. So if you're playing something like Settlers of Catan, you can go down to something nice and cheap, nice and easy, which is the fastest. Just gonna throw in some pages, throw in some magazines really quick and get it out there. But that's if you don't have a great processor. So if you have, or a good GPU, if you have a better one, like a 3000 series and up, choose the slowest, and it'll be able to throw in magazines at a time if you need to. So P1 through 7, choose the middle, or if you have a good one, choose P7, best quality. The rest is advanced. So we won't talk about those unless you want an advanced crash course or a separate video focused on this. So last is audio, and then we'll talk about TubeBuddy. Audio, the only thing I want you to focus on here are two things. Primarily, your sample rate. Much like that envelope, audio has its own little envelope. So imagine you're putting a postcard, or not a postcard, but like if you go and get one of those birthday cards, you're gonna send it to your friend, and you kind of put that in a regular envelope, and maybe you put that, birthday card that's nice and sealed in a big yellow envelope because you're also gonna send them a magazine. Sample rate determines the size of that little envelope. Too long didn't listen, always use 44.1 kilohertz. Keep it simple, because you really don't need to go above that. Unless you are planning to do something like 5.1 surround sound, then use the only other option, which is 48 kilohertz. Again, I won't go into the details of this, although I can. If you're all are interested, I'd be happy to. But 44.1 is by far more than enough. And it'll be a smaller envelope so that you're not overstuffing your big one. Because our bitrate determines that size, right? If we have 8,000 and we're trying to throw in big, high quality audio when you don't need to, might as well keep it as small as you can so it can push out as much as you can. So the only other aspect is in the output. That audio tab, YouTube still gives you information about what that looks like. Always reference the Google article that can guide you with all of these steps. 44.1, 48,000 for 5.1. But everything else, we're talking about bitrate and envelopes, big envelope and a small envelope. We have a bitrate for that smaller audio envelope. And 128 is, again, by far more than enough. Don't go further than that. You'll be good. Trying to be as easy as possible. So let's review really quick. OBS. What did we just talk about? What just happened? A few things. First thing is resolution. Whenever you are streaming in your settings on OBS, you can determine exactly what the size that you're going to send out. Choosing resolution is important, and it depends on how powerful your machine is. Less is more if you can. If you don't have a great processor, graphics card, internet, head on over to 720p. Once you've determined the resolution that you're going to send, and also, quick thing, you have base canvas, you have scaled, just choose the same for both. So if it's 1080, do 1080 for both, or 720 for both. It'll be much easier for you. Everything else, keep it default. Then in your output, your streaming settings, choose your encoder, which we talked about. Let's go back here. Which is, just go with H.264 if you don't know. If you have HEVC, I'd recommend that one. But if you don't, or just not confident, use H.264. You'll be good to go. Then you can really tinker in the encoder settings and start adding your bitrate. Choose anywhere in between what YouTube tells you. If you don't know where to begin, if it still doesn't look good, it's not totally a bitrate problem. You can push it to the maximum that YouTube tells you, but never go beyond that. And if you're still having an issue, then there's something else going on. And there's a trick I want to show you, a super secret trick, way to unlock higher quality streams that took me forever to figure out. But once you have your settings down, your preset, if everything is just minimum or just average, you can go with that. And then you have your audio set up. Oops, I accidentally closed that. Your audio, just choose 44.1, leave it that way. And you're ready to start streaming. You can set your audio. You'll be able to set up your audio by adding a source. I can go into more of those advanced kind of technical aspects of it, but it's very simple. Select your input, select your game capture, and you can select your media source or your video capture device if you have a webcam. Select your defaults. Don't worry about the rest. If I enabled this again, you'll be able to move things around. Oops. You'll be able to move things around. Hey, look at that. And have fun with that. That is for you to determine how you want it placed. Easy mode is just put your game, select your game capture, call it a day. The rest will start to fall into place as you can start layering on top. If you want a design workshop on this, I'll be happy to talk more about that. But once it's going through, we're going to finish up here with a few things. On YouTube, when you start your stream, hey everybody, there is a stream settings. Here's the trick. Here's the secret. Here is something that is super, super important that will elevate the quality of your video without any extra power, any extra resources. When you are setting up your stream on YouTube, you go to, YouTube Studio, and you have your, options here. You can go live. This is where you have something called a stream key. I'm not streaming in 1440p at all. I'm streaming in 1080p, but I selected stream key, and I created one by selecting the resolution that this is gonna be 1440p, even though I'm not sending it that way. And YouTube will select a special encoder, like we talked about earlier, that this envelope on the side, on the back end. So when it receives your envelope, it's gonna repackage that in a brand new envelope to give your viewers. And the quality of your gaming is going to be using a higher end, like a new graphics card, without you having to need to get a new graphics card. It's amazing. I don't know why YouTube just doesn't say it. It kind of do, but it wasn't intuitive. So if you're trying to game and you're playing in 1080p 720 and you're just struggling to get good quality, even if your bitrate is good, your presets are right, your computer isn't blowing up, this is why. YouTube is using an older envelope and it's not looking good. Selecting this here, and when you start streaming, will make it look as if you're streaming in 1440. It's really good at switching it over to that. I love it. It's great. It saved me. All my games look excellent. As you saw here, even in League of Legends, it just looked clean, looked great, nice and smooth, versus before is really choppy and not very fun to look at. Not very fun at all. Not great. Terrible. So, that's the trick. That's the secret. Last is TubeBuddy. So, one thing that I wish we did is when you're creating your live stream and you can edit all that, you're setting up your title, description, all the bits and pieces, TubeBuddy isn't here. And it makes you think that, oh, TubeBuddy doesn't work. Well, it does, but not here. If you are planning on using TubeBuddy to maybe set up a template that you've already saved, maybe a template that you use keyword research, you found a target keyword, you used SEO Studio to set up your title, description, your tags, or a basic template that you reuse a lot. The way to access SEO Studio and apply those changes over into YouTube is by going to your dashboard or the video details page. Instead of going to the live control room, for example, we have one here, view in live control room, just go to the video itself. And from here, all your TubeBuddy tools activate. And when you update any changes here or use SEO Studio and apply your template, this is how you can do that. You'll apply that template here, and when you save it and publish it, it'll update your stream whenever you go live or while you're live. If you want to do that, I would recommend it. But when you schedule it, set it up. If you want to, do research in between now and then before you go live, you can apply that SEO Studio draft or your template. You're good to go. There's another area that I want you to look at, which is in your analytics and your audience tab. So YouTube does this little weird thing. So under when your viewers are on YouTube, there's a recommendations for when there is an upload time, recommended upload time, and a live stream time. This tells you when the best time to stream is going to be, and I'd recommend selecting that. I kind of am not, because, you know, work is work. But if you're doing live streams a lot, this is always excellent to look at so that you have an idea of what's going on. It'll take all that data that your viewers are showing up to watch your live streams and your videos. You want to capture them when they're available. That way you can get as many viewers as possible. And then lastly is retention analyzer. So if you've streamed on Twitch, and you've probably seen a lot of analytics where you can see what that retention looks like. And you can't really, you can look at retention later, but it doesn't immediately come through. And then if you really want to see how your live streams are doing, you have to click on each and every single video, every live stream, look at the analytics for each, every single one. So if I went back and go to live, look at analytics, scroll down, look at everything that's going on, my retention, go from there. Do it again. That's kind of a pain. When you have a lot of live streams, that's a pain. And if you're trying to improve the quality of your live streams, Retention Analyzer is a great way for you to look at how your live streams are going and your retention. You would select live streams from the video types, and automatically your videos will organize themselves in all your live streams, so you can see which live streams are doing well at the 1 minute mark, 10 seconds, 30 seconds. Consider your hook. If at the first minute most of your viewers are gone, work on your skills. Work on your presentation skills. Work on the hook. Work on all the things. And I'm preaching to myself here. But this tool is great for figuring that out. You can see which ones worked. Go to those videos to see, what was it that was great? What was awesome about it? What did you do differently? What helped you out? You can see all your live streams, figure out which ones were bad, don't do that again, and so on and so on. This is a great way for you to work on the content quality of your videos. So those are the 3 live stream, 3 tools you can use when you're considering live streams. Obviously, Keyword Explorer is another one that you'd want to use when you're considering what kind of live streams you want to do. And you can create an SEO template so that when you set up your stream, you can just add some quick things here and there, what matters, and then apply the SEO draft to save you time from clicking all that yourself. Oops. Sorry about that. So coming back up, talked about SEO Studio. Recommended times. Actually, there's a better name for it. Recommendations. We'll just use that. Recommendations. Keep up with that. And Retention Analyzer so that you can keep improving on your work. These are excellent. Obviously, Keyword Explorer is great. Title Generator if you want to come up with ideas. If you're not quite convinced that your live stream has the best name ever. So if I went back to this live stream, learn to live stream on YouTube, maybe it wasn't so great. If I click on Title Generator, we can start coming up with some of those ideas. I have a few live streams of me really going wild on this. By the way, I did A/B testing on all of them. They all performed better. Title Generator really did it. But now I can look at, hey, start streaming on YouTube Gaming with OBS Live. How to live stream. Get started with OBS Live and learn how to stream on YouTube Gaming. Pretty interesting. So we can take that, go to Keyword Explorer, look at what out of those keywords are being utilized from your competition, and start mixing and matching some phrases. And of course, Thumbnail Analyzer, so you can play with some ideas. So for example, I have a couple ideas here. Thumbnail analyzer. And once that loads that, we have something we can look at. I'm gonna throw in some right now that I made. Wasn't quite sure if they would be better or not. As you can see, I have Streaming 101. I have a different variation of that and one with just an arrow. And when I look at the heat map, we can see that there's a laser in right here on Live Streaming 101, which, hey, that kind of worked. I'm happy with that. But this one was just all over the place. Didn't quite hit on what I was talking about. Plus, there's not quite sure what that means exactly. And then up here, it was all centered around the right areas. Streaming 101, a little bit on those icons, and of course myself. So I landed on that one, called that a day. Start your stream, get going, good from there. Woo! Oh, last thing, coming back here, when you are utilizing audio, this could be another crash course in itself, but filters are going to be your best friend. You can, when it comes to audio, you can choose a few of these. I would always recommend a compressor. Just throw in the random compressor, the limiter should be good enough for you to just get started. You'll start to, there's ways to tweak it, but that's a whole other video. We will have to do that another day if anyone is interested. But I recommend it for audio. And then Atrium or AITUM, Atom. If you are streaming and you want quick shorts on the side so that you don't have to edit anything, it's just done for you, use this. That way, whatever you're streaming, you'll be recording on your computer and you already have a video for that. All you have to do is upload. And as you can see, I already have a scene ready to go. I can adjust this as I need to. And you know, whatever's happening on this screen is also happening on that side. And awesome, easy peasy. Okay. Woo! I know that was a lot. Too long didn't listen again, or too long didn't get it. Your encoder is important. So choose H.264. It is kind of the standard at the moment. There's a little bit newer one, HEVC. Use that if you like to. Otherwise, H.264. Choose a resolution that is not blowing up your computer. If you don't have a great processor or graphics card, aim lower than what you are using on your computer. So if I'm on 1080p, I would use 720p if I didn't have a great machine. Then your bitrate, choose what YouTube tells you. Stay somewhere in the middle. If your video's not looking great, just hit the maximum, never go beyond it. If it still doesn't look good, that is not the problem. So we have our envelope that we decided, with our resolution. We have our encoder that is, putting the magazines into that envelope, Our bit rate determines the size of the magazine that we're putting into that envelope, and we're sending it off to YouTube. And how fast they get it is what that preset is. If you have a really good system, just use the highest quality. You want a nice high quality envelope, video and audio, in other words. And that's about it. Your audio, keep it default. I won't even say more. Keep the defaults, don't adjust it. If you think that you want better audio, it's not really going to help. You're just stuffing your envelope with more that you don't really need. Make it easy on your audience to watch your stream and not have a lot of clipping, disconnections, freezing, weird things happening. You don't want that. So keep it as minimal as possible. And then use TubeBuddy to set up a template. Use SEO Studio, create a template so that you can always, when you're setting up your stream, just set up the basics, set up your stream key, which once you create it, you'll never have to do it again, but choose 1440p, or unless you're streaming beyond that, which I don't recommend it, unless you're a big, like IGN and doing a big live stream with thousands of people, you don't need to. Go to 1440p so that you're using YouTube's latest and greatest, and it'll automatically improve the quality of your video by margins. Set that up. Use SEO Studio to set up that template, or to apply the templates. You're not retyping everything over and over again. Use TubeBuddy recommendations to see what time's the best time for you to stream. And then Retention Analyzer is really the most valuable tool there to show you where your viewers are falling off. That way you can determine how you can start improving your streams, get more watch time, get more views, get more subscribers, higher click-through rate, all the things. You'll be solid. Wow. So there's a lot optimizing your stream. Yeah. Once your stream is done, it's live. It's saved as a video on demand. And you want to make sure that that's ready to go. You don't want a video that is pixelated for them to look at, because it's just going to keep hurting your CTR. Then that leads to limited visibility and it's dead. So these settings are important, and they can be complicated to learn and figure out. Come back to this video to just listen into each piece. I'll have chapters set up as quickly as YouTube allows me to. Or find us in Discord, click the join link at the bottom. Look for me. My name is Lyric. I'm here to help whatever way I can. Ask me, reach out to me. I've been working with OBS for a long time, and I want to help you get the best stream that you can get with the system that you have. That said, thanks everyone for being here. That was quite a session. Love to hear your comments. I'd love to hear your questions. Head over to Discord. For now, we're going to close up shop on this stream. Drink your water. If you have some coffee, stay caffeinated. And keep on creating. I believe in you.